Hey there, it's Fran Davidson from psychicandenergywork.com.au, and this is part 4 of my monthly observations for January 2026. Part 4 always looks at the reality number in the month's chart, and the reality number tells us the end states, the results that we are likely to attain egoically or spiritually, or a mix of both usually, by working through the other numbers in the month's chart, the birth number and the MO. Now, if you go through to the website psychicandenergywork.com.au to the monthly observations page, you'll see that I've written about the birth number, the reality number, and the MO for this month in a way that adds to this video. So please feel free to get across that. In this video, what I want to touch on is how 28-1 as January's reality number every year, and 2149, which reduces to 7, which is January's specific reality number this year, resulting from adding 28-1 to this year's reality number, or very complex. By doing these things, we get 28-1 and 2149 7. So both of those numbers, one is know yourself. Yeah. 7 is be wise. Be wise in a way that your head isn't full of chatter, in a way that you're really clear on where you're at, what's going on, what you need to do with it, etc., etc. So 7 is very practical wisdom. And in a sense, 7 can also be a time that sees us too much in our head. That could well be reinforced this month simply because January's reality number every year is 28-1. What do I mean by that? 8, 28. 8 can be a very busy dynamic. Yeah, and the fact that we have a couple of 5s hanging around as well could well make your January slightly busier than usual, at least on the energetic level. So when 5 and or 8 are presenting, yes, the physical, the real world schedule can get really busy, but also energetically things can be busy in a way that leaves people a bit like somebody who's surrounded by flies and they just won't stop buzzing around, waving the arms and hello, I just need to get clear. So 5 and 8 can throw distraction, not in a way that completely stops an individual, but in a way that just makes it, a bit more tiring, a bit more bombarding, maybe just not energetically helpful. So 7, being wisdom, will highlight that because one of 7's calls is meditate, quieten mind, come to a point where you can receive from the universe, or whatever it is you call it, the guidance that you need, the clarity, the confirmation. Now, I've talked about that a little bit in the other videos for this month, but what I want to look at here is how sometimes in release work, we can be so keen to get the breakthrough or the message or the sense of clarity that we stay in mind. We're still in the driver. We're still in the driving seat. And therefore, with that, we're not making room for the universe to drop in at all. If I give you an analogy, when we are too much in mind or too much in the egoic wavelength, which at the end of the day, they're sort of one and the same, it can be a bit like I'm standing in a room and I've filled the room with myself. I've filled the room with myself, my projections, my thoughts, my feelings, my narratives, predictions. You with me? Everything. In other words, that little voice that just chatters away, especially in higher 5 and 8 periods. So when it comes to receiving guidance and therefore really helping yourself receive guidance, again, what I'm really talking about here are those moments when I just need to be clear. I just want to get clear, and yet I just can't turn off. When we're in that zone, often there can be a very subtle assumption, unconscious assumption, that somehow we have to make it happen. Whenever self is in a making mood, shall we say, on an energetic level. Again, it's still driving. It's still being master of the universe, project manager. It's fighting with energy. It's fighting with its state, the state that it finds itself in, the state that it's trying to clear. So it can be very handy to remember that when we get clear, we don't need to do anything other than relax, use breath, let go. I often use an analogy of moving from being a mind to a lung. Minds think, minds chatter, heads chatter. Yeah? Lungs don't do that. They simply watch breath. They simply be proud of breath, and they simply let flow happen. So in a sense, the lung is the best spectator of all, or at least one of them. Yeah. Whereas mind can be a bit like a hyped up vessel, if that's the way to say it, in a way that even if it wants quietness, it just can't sit still long enough to let it in. Or maybe it lets it in, but not for very long. And at the end of the day, that is very much a hallmark of egoic self, even when it's in a more settled state. Egoic self loves the microphone. It loves to chatter. It needs to feature, which is why often when we're meditating, we might get to absolute silence, and before we know it, we're thinking something again, or we're visualizing, or we're observing something, chattering away to ourselves. But that is because egoic self is what it is. It doesn't like to sit still. Stillness is death. Stillness is quietness. Stillness is I don't exist. And egoic self is wired to prove that it exists again and again and again. So because this month might introduce some busy vibes, not that we're not used to those, because of that, it is worth remembering that, again, you don't have to fight with energy. You don't have to push or project energy. And this is such a big learning curve for lots of us as we embark on our spiritual development or intuitive development, because so many models say, visualize this to make it happen. Yeah, affirm, create things and make it happen. And in a sense, even though that can be very effective at times, it can also position the person as project manager. In other words, the universe works for me. Here, I just keep nagging at you. I just keep giving you instructions. In other words, I never quite let the universe be more intelligent, more powerful, more helpful, bigger in its viewpoint, perhaps even greater in its supply levels than I am. And because of that, we reduce the amount that we can receive in a moment rather than expand it. At the end of the day, it can be a mix of both. Depending on where we're at in our spiritual development, we can experience it either way as a very successful way of operating. But sooner or later, I'd argue, the universe taps us on the shoulder and says, you know what, I want you, not only I want you, I need you receiving from me, so that then you are able to run with what I download to you in the best possible fashion, in a way that you actually add to creation in all the ways you can, rather than just operating from your own limited viewpoint, even if that's brilliant. So release work in terms of coming to know, in terms of getting clear, release work is literally let go of the mind, stop being a thinker or a chatterer, yeah, even silently, and move into being a lung. Simply watch breath. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth for the count of 4 or 5, using your abdomen, not just your lungs, in a way that's comfy. So again, you're not breathing to push. You're not breathing to make things happen. You're just breathing. And as you're breathing, you're letting go of everything. By doing that, and even there, you can use the affirmation of, I let go of all space. Even there is the role or the opportunity to hand all space back to the divine, the universe, whatever you call it, so that it can fill the room rather than you, so that it can actually have the space it needs to deliver what you're ready to receive now, as an energy, as a piece of intuition, yeah, let alone anything else. The more we just let go, the more that we know that letting go is just breathe, just, if you need to, visualize yourself. Every cell in your body has a pair of hands in it. Let every cell release its pair of hands in a way that it just can't hold in anything anymore. Release in a way that you just allow things to flow. Flow happens. It doesn't need your instruction. It was happening before you, it's happening in spite of you, and it happens for you all the time. The issue isn't flow. The issue isn't the universe. It's us, and whether we're making room for it to operate as it does, as it needs to, and as it can, so that we can help it with its causes. So anyway, hopefully that helps you a little bit more about how to let go this month and how to add value to your letting go. Because if all we do is aim to let go to the point where we don't know, where there is silence, where there is space for the universe to drop things in, we have created the perfect point from which to receive what we need. Because guidance, the more room we give it to actually drop in and announce itself, to reveal itself, the more likely we're able to receive it as all that it is, rather than just the bits we think we need. Again, hope that makes sense. Travel well for January. Happy New Year. Wonderful leads up to Lunar New Year. Yeah? Use space. Use breath. Celebrate silence. Let the divine be real. Let it help you on your way. Take care.